And there has been a lot of criticism regarding the Bai Shan Lin Chinese company and where they've been conducting business, and there have also been accusations of them exploiting Guyana's resources. What is your take on the current issue, given your expertise in the area?
Well, Stacey, first of all, thank you for having me. And that question that you asked there is what can be classically described as a loaded question. I can answer it in several ways. It has several components. I wish I will be given the time to so expound. Firstly, the criticisms that were leveled against Bai Shan Lin, that are being leveled against Bai Shan Lin, are based generally on motivations by a certain group to achieve a certain objective. And I dare say that that objective is to derail foreign investment in Guyana. Because any foreign investor who listens to this hysteria that has been generated is definitely going to think twice before coming to a country such as ours. That is the first point. Bai Shan Lin's investment is an investment in our extractive industries, timber, just like gold and diamond. It's investment in our one aspect of our extractive industries, and in fact, while it's an extractive industry, it has value-added components. The extent to which the investment caters for value added clearly are downstream investments. If the company comes to Guyana to invest and it wants to get back returns as early as it possibly can, clearly those returns will have to be based on exporting primary aspects of its production, i.e. logs and timber. First of all, although Bai Shan Lin may not have been given permission to log large scale in terms of logging timber for export or other utilization, Bai Shan Lin as a corporate entity has the legal right to purchase and to export timber. And from my personal knowledge, that is what has been happening between 2011, 2012, 2013, and the earlier part of this year. I happen to know that Bai Shan Lin has been involved in acquiring logs from the small loggers in Region 10 on a vast scale. And what has been happening is, when these logs are acquired, because there are several small loggers, logs are purchased in small quantities from each logger through their community logging associations. When these logs are purchased, they are not shipped out instantly. These logs, in fact, are stockpiled. And if you had visited Bai Shan Lin's stockpile, let us say the earlier part of this year, before they started shipping out, you would have seen huge mountains of logs, which were being accumulated since 2011. And it is now that Bai Shan Lin is shipping out these logs. The question about whether the forest is being exploited, Guyana's forest, in fact, is monitored by the Guyana Forestry Commission, and the Guyana Forestry Commission is governed by two acts of Parliament. One is the Guyana Forest Act, and two is the Guyana Forestry Commission Act. The Guyana Forest Act sets out all the legal parameters of what is possible and what is not possible in terms of exploiting and harvesting our forest. And you know what? In 2009, the Guyana Forest Act was revised. It was sent to a parliamentary select committee for months upon months on end. The Guyana Forestry Commission sponsored several interactive sessions with stakeholders in the forestry sector. The Forest Act was discussed up and down Guyana in every single logging community. When finally it went back to Parliament, it was passed unanimously by all three parliamentary parties. At the time, PNC won Guyana, PPP, Civic, and the Alliance for Change. They all voted for the Forest Act's revision. And that is the extant law today that governs the operations of the Forestry Commission. Secondly, the Forestry Commission is being policed and managed by an exemplary group of Guyanese public servants. And it pains me because I interact with them regularly. I see them working on the ground. I see these men and women, true Guyanese patriots, in the jungle, in difficult situations, dangerous situations, carrying out monitoring activities, jumping from stump to stump, crossing creeks, measuring logs, checking log stumps, verifying the GPS location of log stumps, verifying the tags on the stumps as against the reports that were given. I see these officers stopping trucks. I see young women jumping up on trucks, measuring logs, verifying. So I know from personal experience and observation the fine group of Guyanese patriots that we have in the Guyana Forestry Commission. And to hear people say, to see people write and criticize them and say that they don't monitor the forest and they allow Bai Shan Lin or any other player to ride roughshod over our laws is painful because I know different. And this has nothing to do with politics or emotion. This is real. I understand that I read somewhere recently that the Forestry Commission has no monitoring station in Kokwani. That is so far from the truth. The Guyana Forestry Commission has 2 monitoring stations in Kokwani. And do you know what? One such monitoring station is inside the Bai Shan Lin compound, where every container is monitored. Every log that goes into every container is measured. The royalty is paid on that log. And when I say measured, I mean the diameter of the log is measured at the butt twice, at the tip twice, and divided by 4 to get the average diameter. And the length of that log is measured. And when you hear it said that Bai Shan Lin is not outside of where they should be in terms of quotas, that is correct. The majority of the log exported by Bai Shan Lin is logs that they have purchased from small loggers in Region 10. Let me tell you something about small loggers in Region 10. In 2001, I led a struggle. There was no community logging association in 2001. No community logging association existed, nor had 1 acre of land. After several days of picketing demonstrations, vigils, marches, the government recognized the wisdom in giving forested land to small operators in communities. The very first one was the Region 10 Forest Producers Association, which was given 44,000 acres of land at Macoria. I could tell you the story about that land. You know how that land was given? The president at the then time, Jagdeo, had to sign a document rescinding because that land was taken away from a Trinidad-based foreign investor. It was taken away because it was underutilized and it was given to the Region 10 Forestry Producers Association. That's the first time in the history of Guyana a community logging association was given land. That was 2001. Today, throughout Guyana, there is about 1.5 million acres in the hands of small logging, community logging associations. Region 10 alone has between 700,000 and 800,000 acres of land. But that is one part. Getting the land is one part. The other part is ensuring that the land is properly harvested within the guidelines of the Forestry Commission to benefit these small loggers. The lives and the livelihoods of the small loggers was nothing to talk about. 3 species of wood used to be sold regularly, 3 or 4 species: green heart, purple heart, locust, crabwood, and cedar. Those were the types of wood that was on the market. Up comes the Chinese. The Chinese came and they found market for what was called other species. Principal among the other species was Wamara. Before the Chinese found the market for Wamara, you know what we used to do with Wamara in Guyana? Chop it up and make firewood. That is what we used to do with Wamara. Today, Wamara is the most sought after and expensive timber in our forest. Why? Because the Chinese came and found the market for it. In addition to that, the Chinese brought equipment, all kinds of equipment, to facilitate logging, both for themselves in the concessions that they have for themselves and to be utilized in other concessions under different types of legal and lawful arrangements for small loggers to have. So people outside of the logging industry, outside of the forest sector, who do not understand how it operates, who do not understand how in Region 10, what has happened over the past few years is with the advent of the Chinese, the small loggers now are beginning to have a good life. And that was the motto of a political party, good life for all Guyanese. The advent of the Chinese is now ensuring that the small loggers have a good life in Region 10. And so this talk about shut down Bai Shan Lin, if Bai Shan Lin should be shut down tomorrow, the principal frontline sufferers will be the small loggers. So we're not saying that Bai Shan Lin and the other Chinese players are innocent and they come in there with altruistic intentions and they're good guys and they get the sign of the cross on the forehead and they're holy. We're not saying that. We know that they commit several breaches. We know that they, on many occasions, they have created problems. We know they destroy the roads. We know they do all kinds of things. But we have found that talking to and interacting with them, especially at a higher level, we can gradually change their approach to the community that they live in. And that is what we're going to embark on. But I want to make another point. There are several logging associations, and there are 2 in Kokwani specifically that I would like to refer to. Over the past 14 months, selling to Bai Shan Lin, and there's another company called Rongan Inc. Selling to Bai Shan Lin and Rongan has brought in about $400 million to those members of those associations. And that money is circulating in Kokwani. When you go to Kokwani now, there is a hive of activity because of logging, not so much because of bauxite. I say to Lindeners that more money circulates in Kokwani now than circulates in Linden. But there's another point I want to make. Bai Shan Lin is not the only Chinese player in this forestry sector. You have Rongan Inc. Kaieteur News published a ship where they sell loading and taking wood out. We're not taking wood only out by containers, but we're carrying it out by ship. Oh my guy, that ship doesn't belong to Bai Shan Lin. Where the ship was boarded in the newspapers photograph is not Bai Shan Lin's concession. It belongs to Rongan Inc. The logs that were shown there does not belong to Bai Shan Lin. It belongs to Rongan Inc. All the photographs that you see with logs along the side of the road coming into Kokwani don't belong to Bai Shan Lin. Those logs belong to several small loggers. Some of the logs I see in the papers belong to me and not Bai Shan Lin. With the helicopter flyover, the photographs that they show, I know a number of people who are my friends who the logs belong to. So, while Kaieteur News' intention may have been to draw attention to the fact of exploitation of our forest and shipping out primary logs, that may have been their objective, they went overboard and they create what I call hysteria. Many of the people you see picketing on the road now by Echo and all of that, they don't understand the nature of the forestry operations. They don't. Okay? And because they don't, I'm sorry for them. Because what is going to happen, their actions is going to bring about some serious problems for future investment in Guyana. Serious problems. And we need to correct it. We need to correct it. Guyana is a primary producing economy. I said so in a document that I wrote the other day. Look, since you were a little girl growing up, since before you were born, you're hearing about Guyana's potential. You're hearing about the sugar. We're going to get refined sugar. We're going to make white sugar. We're going to make sugar in them square thing. We're going to make square sugar and put it in package and sell. Since you're a little girl grew up, you're here though. Since me a little boy grew up, you're here though. Up to now, I've been not see them. You're not there. Right? You're hearing about this gold refinery to refine our gold, value added. You know, you're not there. You find 1 carat of gold, and this is just a hypothetical. You find 1 carat of diamond rather in Guyana, it might sell for $10. When it go and nice up outside and cut and polish and put in a ring, it's $1,000. There's value added. We not got that. We still sell our primary products. We still do that, although we talk. We was to make Rice Krispies years ago, decades ago. We was to make rice cereal, right? We was to make all of those things, but up to now, it's just talk, right? The loggers in Kokwani, Aichuni, Three Friends, Komaka, all those areas, Linden, they have to deal with the fierce urgency of now. I repeat, they have to deal with the fierce urgency of now. They cannot wait until they're 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 years old to go and hope that somebody going to cut this wood out of the forest and give them a job in some furniture factory. That don't ever happen. They talk. So they have an opportunity to harvest the forest now. They got to deal with the resources now. And I see people talking about replanting the forest. People don't understand. Let me explain something to you. For every tree that is in Guyana's forest, around that tree is 50, 60 little seedlings struggling to come up. And the seedlings that get the most sunlight, they are the ones that make it into big trees. And if you find about 50, 60 seedlings, just about 5 or 6 will make it. When you cut that tree and more sunlight comes in through the canopy, 5, 6, 7 of those seedlings will sprout up. And that is how the jungle regenerates itself. You don't have to replant the jungle. So I hear people in Echo talking about replanting the jungle. You don't replant our jungle. And the rate of harvesting for small people is 0.1 cubic meters an acre. For the bigger operators with timber sales agreement, is 7 to 8 cubic meters per hectare. And that is not denuding our forest. Okay? And a final point about investment, there is no direct foreign investor in the world who's going to come to Guyana or any other developing country and invest because they love that country. They're going to invest because they see an opportunity to make maximum money in the shortest possible time. And that is what they're going to do. Right? And Guyana is no exception. And we must decide whether we want that or not. So don't talk about shutting them down, and don't talk about all the political issues. If you want to get at a certain politician, go after him. Don't use the forestry sector as a mechanism to get at a politician. You're going to trample innocent people, which you're setting up to do. You know, they say when elephants fight, them put ants underneath the grass, just cry and holler because the elephant just mash them up. The small loggers going to be the ants who the big elephants going to crush if they're not careful about going after politicians, who they're accusing of corruption and all that. They're destroying the image of Guyana's forestry sector without knowing what they're talking about. And they must stop it. They must stop it.